Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology, and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
So why don't we just start with some, good old financial advice, of course, Steve. But we don't want to. We want to preface this. This is just general advice that you shouldn't, take to the bank, just like every other YouTube finance guru says, because we don't want to get sued. If someone does something based on what we're about to say. But all kidding aside, just wanted to start with financial advice tropes, especially like the ones that you get on the internet. I've always thought that, the basics are really what people should go for when it comes for financial advice, like spend less than you earn, stay out of bad debt, invest what you've saved in boring, diversified funds, whatever you want to call it. That typically, if you use that as a base and build up your foundation from there, sure, if you've got a bit extra, you want to play around a bit, that's fine, but you don't want to mess with the base there. And I just thought that this was funny only because this week I had someone approach me about, they've got the hot stock tip. And although I think he was actually suggesting, I can't actually recall everything because the only thing that really stuck in my mind was how much gold and silver he bought. And I thought, I just sort of had this image in my head that he had a vault in his built into his house, and he could just walk in there and open it up and just see gold and silver bars in there for a rainy day. Maybe if all the financial markets electronically melt down by a rogue EMP or something, that gold and silver might come in handy. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? There's just such a plethora of advice on the internet. We've talked about influencers and whatever, and you can see them all now doing their vertical videos on Instagram and whatever, because that's obviously a lucrative sort of subject area that will gauge people's interest because everyone wants to make more money to, secure themselves. But I just find it funny that if you just take it back to those basics, yeah, it's not sexy. It doesn't get you the $1 million overnight or anything like that. But, it's the long view that is probably the more interesting thing, isn't it?
Well, it is. And the long view is important because the long view is what successful investing is really about, because it's about compounding. And I hardly need to go into what compounding is, but the point is it takes a long time and the benefits in the final few years, not in the first few years. So my own personal experience, the best tip I ever got was, I remember standing around one evening in a bar, and we were all outraged because Australian banks has started charging account fees and ATM fees and those sorts of things. And a very wise person there said to me, "Don't be outraged. A young man like you should own the banks." And I said, "How do I do that?" And he said, "You go and buy shares in them." That was 30 years ago. I went out and bought a whole lot of bank shares in Australian banks, and I dividend reinvested, compounded that. Best tip I ever got. And I would say that still works today. Don't try and pick a stock that you think is going to make money for you in the last 2 or 3 years. That is actually where I've made all my losses in shares. The ones I've been able to stick with and reinvest and compound have been very successful.
Isn't that what Einstein said, that compounding is the most amazing thing in the universe, or some paraphrase of that?
Well, it is, because it effectively at some point begins to grow exponentially if you're patient enough, and of course if you pick the right stock in the first place.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's talk a bit more AI now, and that's something we've been banging on a bit about this year, but I thought we'd maybe take a slightly more optimistic view here and its potential uses in healthcare. And obviously there have been some stories. It's not just the ones that we were looking at today, but I saw a report the other day about using AI tools to track cancer cells and their development, etc. And then it kind of got me thinking about Yeah, that kind of makes sense in the sense of if AI is at its best when it's working with big data sets, that's throwing it at a problem like a disease or a cancer or something like that, might actually, you could potentially see that it could be actually quite useful in that regard, because it could track what's going on in effect almost like from a data point of view, which is very interesting.
Oh, yeah. AI is amazing in how it can help us find cures and help us understand diseases. I think one of the things, if you think about how the receptor system works in biology, which is the activation of a cell, whether it's to promote a growth in the cell or to kill the cell, you require very specific folding of proteins effectively to create that. And so, or you need factors that are a particular shape or have a particular active area. So without going into this in too much detail, there are so many different combinations that this, you could be choosing one of a million potential compounds as a cure. AI will not be able to predict the exactly correct compound, for instance, or its chemical makeup, but it will give you an insight, and it will shrink that from 100,000 maybe to 10,000 or 5,000 compounds, or a family of compounds. And so it can help you, or can help the scientists really like narrow down what they should be looking at. And this will bring great benefit and advances in medicine in the next 10 years.
One thing that I find interesting with this too is that I know we've spoken before about like we're looking potentially at significant advances in medicine in the coming decades, etc. We've spoken about that on past podcasts, but what interested me is that this is like another point of view of what's going to get us there. That using this technology to be able to do that is not something, I know that obviously my head's not in medicine, but it wouldn't have occurred to me back then that might have been an option. And it's quite interesting that it's like throwing all the tools at it. You would think with medical advances it's more research and actual scientific study or whatever, which will still go on, but deploying in effect like an AI algorithm on something is quite interesting as another tool in the arsenal for that.
Yeah, look, to be quite honest, ChatGPT, Gemini, and most of the AI agents that exist today, the large language models, you can argue that their use case is really information. It's basically just a very sophisticated, if you like, Google search. But the real power of AI is being able to, when there are a million or a billion choices for a potential solution, AI can help us narrow that down so that the work that scientists do becomes a lot more targeted, and therefore the success would come a lot more quickly. There's still a lot of luck involved, and certainly the models and agents that we're using for everything from theoretical physics to find particles, to find ways to create fusion energy, to find ways to bring about new medical interventions are still very, I guess they're not very old in terms of the computing power that's now unlocked for these AI functions, but it's setting us on a path where, if you've ever wondered how would we ever become like a Star Trek civilization, well, it would be off the back of these tools.
And it also occurs to me, obviously, the importance in this case of human oversight and judgment, because, it's a great tool, but you still need someone there who, from a human perspective, that can actually, feel that, take that last step for the whatever you want to call it, the defining the treatment, whatever it happens to be.
Totally. I mean, I think this is what people have to remember, that it's not just important for humans to be there, to be in control or to have oversight, and that is important, but human ingenuity, human imagination, and human creativity are things that AI cannot generate in a moment to solve a problem. You know, it can look back and see what the best solution was in the past, but when we require something that's new, novel, and out of the box, only a human can provide that. And all of us as humans should be working harder now to be creative and collaborative, because that's how we really harness the benefits of AI.
Absolutely. And excited to see where all of that goes. So just lastly, I did want to, on a very different topic, and one that's close to me and my cinematic, antecedents in my brain. I'm excited that Jaws has reached its 50th anniversary this year, and they're celebrating it with some special release screenings that are coming up at the end of the month here. And I've got my tickets booked. I'm actually excited to go see a 50-year-old movie compared to current films. I don't know how you want to call that, but it's the thing that was that's great about it is that this film for me is probably the one that really supercharged my interest in cinema from the beginning, because it was probably the first real movie that I saw that wasn't Disney or something like that, for obvious reasons. But and it's just it'll be good to actually see it on the big screen, because I never actually got the opportunity to see it that way, and it's a reminder of yesteryear in a way for cinema, and why you would actually go out and watch a film in the cinema. This is the type of film that you would go and see it, although that's probably me being older now. I don't know if anyone younger would appreciate it on that respect. Some might, but to me it feels like a trip down memory lane in some ways.
Ben, what can I add to what you've just said, except it's a great film by any measure.
Absolutely.
It's suspenseful, the way it's shot, the way it's done, the way it's developed, and you can know that storyline, but you watch that film and you're part of that.
Absolutely. And I was going to say for all the talk of the shark being the scary part, for me the most terrifying scene is Quint's monologue about the Indianapolis. I even remember watching that the first time, and just the eeriness of him just delivering dialogue. It's just three guys sitting down having a chat, and it's the scariest scene in the film for me. Just the picture that he provides telling that story.
No, and it sets the scene. Something's coming, and it's not right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's been quite a few documentaries about the making of the film, and I think they're releasing another one in conjunction with this 50th anniversary. But even that's worth checking out, because the making of the film was quite a Herculean feat that everyone said wasn't, like, if anyone was in their right mind, they wouldn't have made it at all. Especially with the technology back then. But young Spielberg was 27 and full of energy, and probably didn't know any better, and he still tackled that climbing that mountain.
I knew how to use cinematic techniques to create a film that you were part of, and I can't imagine anyone doesn't like Jaws because they don't think much of the film. I can imagine people don't like Jaws because it really has moments where it puts you on edge. And for the people in the film, for yourself, even if you're really an anxious person, that shark could come out of the screen and you could be next. So it's built, and the characters, the way it's built, and just the way the story is told. It's a fantastic film.
So we can go watch it again and then question whether it's safe to go back into the water again, as the tagline said. All right, yeah, Steve, we might wrap it up there. It's something to look forward to. And yeah, we did cover a few different topics today for something different. Yeah, I'll go back to my financial advice so I can save up some money to, I don't know, pay for my AI healthcare and get my Jaws tickets.
Oh, perfect. That's a very good financial plan.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so that's it for this week's episode. We'll catch you next time.